Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium and a Taino Arawak, and I own a school called the Ivy League Psychic Academy, where I train people in psychic mediumship development, Reiki. We have tarot, astrology, all kinds of energetic self-development and spiritual training. This particular class tonight is about your life contract. And I have to say that out of everything that I teach, I really feel like this may be the most impactful, because when we don't have an understanding about our life purpose, we can't ever tap into a sense of inner peace. We can't tap in to a sense of joy that is lasting and natural. And we are always off path as long as we're not living within our life contract. We just are. We're off path. When you're not on the path, the universe isn't working with you. Okay, so that's just like a whole problem in itself that we're going to break down. But just even hearing that should sort of resonate with you guys. You know, when the universe is not working with you, when you're going against the grain, when you're having to hustle for everything, it's absolutely exhausting. Okay, so we're going to break down what this is all about here. This is part of the free mini class with Q&A quarantine series. Due to the quarantine, I'm doing one free mini class a week, and I think we have a couple coming up also that I did want to mention. We have a few up already. A cleansing training, free will versus destiny charted future. Are you a psychic, a medium, or an empath? How to ruin your reading, how to check your ego. Okay, the ones coming up are, why are my ears ringing? And other physical cues of your intuitive intelligence. The still small voice, knowing how and when to hear from the light. Receiving the download, manic reaction to the download. When you receive a download, direction about your life goes directly into you, typically through the crown chakra, and it causes what would look like a manic depressive episode in your life. And we have death coaching, how to talk directly to your loved ones. Okay, other free mini classes before the quarantine is up. Let's talk about this. Okay, what exactly is a life contract? I don't know of too many readers who talk about a life contract. The only readers that I really know that ever touch on this are astrologers. And I've looked at Vedic and Western astrology quite a bit over the years, somewhat obsessively at times, and have tried to figure out why these really important things aren't typically coming up in readings. And what I've noticed working with the astrologer who teaches here at the Ivy League Psychic Academy, Christina Del Rey, she's really brilliant. She does Western, and she's an old psychic mediumship student. She's also a friend of mine. So what tends to happen is that we have a lot of the same clients or different ways that we read situations. And what we found over the years is that she's pretty shocked and amazed that what I see through psychic mediumship is accurate to the planets and planetary shifts and alignments. So we now know, after years of me feeling the planets, that it's all accurate and it lines up. So basically, what I see when I do a life contract reading for someone is their life purpose. And what we know astrologically, let's say, is that if you're not living within your life purpose, you're not really supported by the planets. You're not really supported by the universe. And it's another way of saying that you may notice problems with law of attraction, manifestation. You feel that you're somehow dealing with bad karma or you're being punished in some way. It's essentially this. It's going against the grain. And the only way to get in alignment with the universe and to start reaping the benefits, the ease, the prosperity is to make sure that you are abiding by this life contract. The planets support the contract. Your deceased loved ones and ancestors support the contract. Your guides and angels that are working with you from the other side, that are appointed to you, are exclusively supporting this contract. There's literally no point in living outside of this. It is nothing but frustration. So it's become really sad to me over the years to have so many clients come through and to see how few of them are living on path, are living within their life contract, and are really working with planetary alignments and things like this. That's what I would ultimately like to see for everybody. And while I don't tell all of my clients when I'm giving them a reading that I'm looking at their life contract, it's become something separate that I've offered in more recent years. So people now book life contract parties, or they book full life contract readings, and we only talk about this. So we could look at this for an hour, we could look at this for hours, But what is within your life contract? Well, really more of what it is. Let me explain that a little bit more. Before you come to Earth, you sign this agreement, and you wrote it. And this is the big misconception, is that people come to Earth and they feel that they're at the mercy of the circumstances of the world, or that everything's fixed, or that there's no point in trying. Actually, you chose every single thing that is happening, and you have free will what to do with those opportunities and how you're going to react to the things that happen throughout your life. So within a life contract is decisions made for your own progression and growth. You, before you came to Earth, looked at any past life, unresolved, unfinished work, possibly lessons, and we would also incorporate things like certain key relationships, okay? Probably there we're looking more at like soulmate relationships. And we would put all of this into one long agreement, and then we would divide it up by deadlines. So within your life contract, you have these points where that particular lesson or accomplishing that task, that job can expire. And this is another major issue, is that because people aren't living within their life contract, they're also missing all kinds of deadlines. When we start to feel as though the universe is pressing us or pressuring us, we're being squeezed, we're being pushed in one specific direction, or you're having a lot of really strange dreams maybe, and there are spirits, probably your guides, but there are spirits up in your face, you hear your name being called, it's a sign that you're approaching another deadline within your life contract. So if we were to say that everything's on a time constraint, right, and eventually you're going to kick the bucket, you don't want to have all of this lingering, so that when you cross, you're again looking at another pileup of unfinished business. So then you reincarnate, you look at another life contract, and it's spillover, constantly, just treading water, just didn't finish it, didn't finish it, didn't finish it. It's like having an ongoing to-do list that you never bother to get to. Well, you wouldn't do that in your day-to-day life. You wouldn't do that at your job without expecting to get fired. You wouldn't do that and expect to get a promotion or really enjoy going to work the next day, okay? You'd be living in a cardboard box out on the street, like at the mercy of the elements. Well, that's essentially what most people are doing in life. Yes, they get a paycheck. Yes, they have a career. Maybe they get married. Maybe they have kids. Maybe they have some relationships. Maybe they learn some lessons, but they are not abiding by the actual contract that they signed. So this is a major concern, and this is the ultimate focus of every reading that I do, is to help everybody at least a little bit to know what the next step is to get in alignment with the life contract. If you do not complete something within your contract, and most people aren't finishing anything, but say maybe you just missed one or two deadlines. What this means is that you can catch up. You can get on path and start doing what you're meant to do. But things for you are going to move very, very quickly. So there's a rapid catch-up phase that would happen as soon as you get on path. And so any of you who have ever felt like, you were lost for a while, just really out at sea in your life, and then you started feeling passionately that you were doing what you were supposed to be doing, you got on path, you got certain people and situations out of the way that were holding you back, and things moved so quickly you felt overwhelmed but still good, that's a sign that you were out and then got back in. Now the trick is just to keep you on. Typically though, really once somebody gets on, they tend to stay on, because you don't forget that type of intensity, that knowing in your bones and your gut. If we could just sort of get you in the ballpark, we can normally get you the rest of the way. So your life contract is not just about how to get your paycheck, how to design a career for yourself. It's really also about your soul's work. It's about your life's work. You came here to do something specific. possibly even a couple different things. And we want to make sure that that's getting done. So it can change. And this is the other big thing in a life contract, is that most of us come in having certain skill. And you would notice this in grade school, and then it gets louder in middle school, and then it gets even louder in high school, and then maybe you get a scholarship. Who knows? But definitely your parents, friends, your teachers, people would be persuading you to go into a certain field. So I'll just use myself as an example. Everybody came to me and said, oh my goodness, you're a great communicator, even though I hated it, even though I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And they would say, your presentations are amazing. You're going to be a teacher. You're going to be a teacher. Well, here I ended up anyways, right? Which is kind of maybe not the best example, but they would tell me, you're going to be a teacher. Well, nothing could have turned me off more. If I would have thought of any career in the world I could have done, it would have never been to be in a classroom with a bunch of little kids and to be teaching. It was never, ever going to happen. So what that means is that usually what people see in you is residual from your previous life or lives. No doubt I was a teacher in the past, no doubt. And they try to make sure that you're going to be able to get a degree, have a paycheck, feed yourself, pay your bills, right? These are great things to consider. However, usually when we're looking at what our natural abilities are, we're looking at something that was already done to death in the past. So it's okay to use it to pay those bills and to launch yourself into the world. But usually around your mid-20s to your late 20s, we need to get back to work. We need to abandon that work that was already done. It's great that you were able to use it as a stable foundation, but you need to get on to your real work within your life contract. And that is very rarely something that you already know how to do really well. It is usually very challenging and won't look anything like what you were doing prior to it. Okay, so this is where things get sticky. If your whole family supported you in maybe becoming a lawyer, what are the odds that at 30, you're going to be willing to let that go? Your student loans, all those years of hard work at school, the career that you built for yourself, all your clients. What are the odds that you're just going to jump ship on that and get into, like, I don't know, maybe light work or carpentry? You're going to become a farmer. Probably not. It's literally like pulling from their dead grasp. People would rather die sometimes than to see a loss to their income. Okay, look at the circumstances right now out in society. How many people are really, literally willing to die and contract coronavirus than to lose their income? I cannot state this more clearly. We have to be willing to make a leap and let go of money sometimes in order to get in alignment with why you really came to Earth. And this is the biggest obstacle I see with people. Plus, they're habitual. And with any kind of habit, we also have fear. Fear being ego being control. Okay, I need to manipulate or get for myself. It is a given that anyone who is within a system outside of their contract will develop fear and ego control issues because they have not been working in alignment with the universe to receive. So they have had to hustle for everything. They have had to go and to get that on their own. And if that's what's happening, then it would be harder for those individuals to release and to be part of the bigger system, okay, of things in blind faith and trusting of the universe. So that's essentially what your life contract is. Now, we have a couple interesting things within your contract that I look at when I'm doing these readings. One of them being pivotal points. They are enticing you to rebuild your life in some way. Usually when someone hits a pivotal point, they have light bulbs turn on in their head. They have ideas about who they are. They have ideas about why they came to Earth. They have greater understanding of their purpose, and they become very gutsy about creating this. No one can tell them that it's inaccurate. However, their circumstances all around them are going to say, you're making a mistake. The changes that you're making are crazy. You look mentally unstable. This doesn't match anything that you built prior. How could you be doing this? What's wrong with you? And it challenges an individual. A person during a pivotal year is going to have to let go of what they had previously built and understand that what they're building now doesn't have to match that, but it does have to be built. And they get 2 years to build it. So let's just use an example. Let's say, you're 30 years old, you have a pivotal point. You have 2 years to build whatever it is that you feel you are supposed to do for your life's work here. And usually it's a brand new career. Sometimes it has to do with like marriage. Sometimes it's building a family or letting go, of a family, something like that. But it's usually a lot of change in major areas all at once. So they have 2 years to build it. Now, once the 2 years, so you have 31 and 32 to build it. At 32, you're sort of cut off from building it anymore, but you continue to reap benefits on average for 7 to 10 years of whatever you built. Sometimes we can look at things and see that there's an extended period of opportunity from that. So some people get it for 12 years or 15, and that's awesome. The 2 years leading up to a pivotal year, I call detoxing years. So if you have a pivotal year coming up at 30, you're going to detox at 29 and 28 to involve letting go of people, relationships, lovers, possibly marriages, family members. It could be work, jobs, money. It could be a property. It could literally be ideas about yourself or old concepts that you've carried around with you your entire life. But the detoxing years are usually so disturbing that by the time your pivotal year comes 2 years later, you've kind of worn yourself out, and a lot of people aren't as gutsy as they need to be in creating the change. So it's very challenging. Why do we have detoxing years? Because every time the bus stops, somebody's got to get off. Because with every new level, there's a new devil. Because a door can't open unless another one shuts. It's the law of the universe. If somebody wants to become a light worker, they have to go through a lot of kundalini and detoxing and stuff. If you want a healing, you have to purge yourself of the disease. If someone's holding you back, they got to go. They got to get off the train so your train can move forward. It's the law. But people, again, habitual practices of holding on, they want to believe that those relationships are supposed to be lifelong, or that career that they invested in is supposed to last. They don't want to let go. So the biggest mistakes that people make is that they don't let go during the 2 detoxing years, which means that they don't have as much opportunity to build in the 2 years that come up. So you reap what you sow. It's karmic. You're only going to get out of it what you put in. If you were to look at the patterns in your life, I think that right now you should have at least one example. If you're 50 to 60, you should have 2 or 3 examples where you can look back and you could say, oh my God, that happened to me. I most definitely had this enlightenment and understanding of what I wanted to build with my life. Now, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. That's up to your free will. You would have gone through a very hard time leading up to it, and you would have had some very easy prosperity after it. Okay, so even if you toy with it a little bit, you can feel those dynamics, and they're coming no matter what. So we want to maximize. So when I talk to somebody about their life contract, I look from the time of birth to the time of death, and I do not tell you when you're going to die, so don't even. But, okay, I look at this and I see, okay, where are their pivotal points? And I start breaking it down according to those. And then, of course, we go into great detail. What do I expect you to do during that time? How can you maximize and all of that? Now, in with these pivotal points, and let's say you only get maybe like 5, okay? That means we need to take them all, okay? It's sort of like I look at it the equivalent of soulmates. We had a class for the first time we taught the other day called Reaching the One, and everyone wanted to know, where's my soulmate? Where's the ultimate person I'm supposed to be with? And we talked about having a small handful of soulmate options that cross your path over your life, and you really want to wait on those and make one of those work. So pivotal points are sort of like that. In with your pivotal points, you have 2 interesting things. You have a legacy point and something I call an inheritance aspect. So your inheritance point would be when you have accomplished something within your life contract that is going to be handed down either to your children, to your family, to future generations, possibly just within like your bloodline, but for many people, it's bigger than that. It's just future generations in general. The inheritance is an opportunity to gift something from your hard work down to those that will be born after you. So that's nice. A legacy point. Woo! I mean, this is the big one. And most people never reach it because they don't do anything within their life contract, sadly, which is why they never feel happy or fulfilled or like they are where they belong. You know, they're just zombies, empty. The legacy point is the point where you hit a pivotal mark, a pivotal point, and you make the changes and you are able then to leave a story to the universe that will always be connected to the important work that you did. Many will benefit from your legacy point. It's sort of like a maturity point. It's sort of like we're not all supposed to just be here taking all the time. You're supposed to hit a certain age and then start thinking in terms of giving back to the community and the world around you. Well, your legacy point is like the big one. This is the mark that you're leaving on the world. Okay, and this follows you into future lives. If your huge legacy point was something in teaching in this life, in future lives, that would be very easy. That would come to you very, very natural. What happens if you miss a deadline? Well, it ain't good, but it's not the worst thing to see. If you miss a deadline, you're going to want to catch up. The worst thing that we could see is that you end up reincarnating again and again and again. A lot of people don't seem to understand. They go, well, can't I just finish the work on the other side? And I don't think I plan to reincarnate again. That's not really up to you. That's like showing up at work and being like, I think at lunch I'm going to go home and just stay home. You know, like that's not an option. You go have a sandwich, but you need to get back in here in 30 minutes. You know, it's not an option. So there are certain things, only certain things that we can finish and complete on the other side, but a whole slew of them have to be completed on Earth. The Earth is just a classroom. This is a ground where we learn lessons, grow, accomplish tasks. That's what this is. And it can't be recreated on the other side. That's a whole different dimension. That's a totally different, that's like going to Walmart and expecting to feel like you're at Target. These are two, even if we see some of the similar product, two totally different worlds. Okay, so you don't want to miss any. What do you do if you miss deadlines? Try not to. That's it. Be bold. Okay, be bold enough to detox in the 2 years leading up to a pivotal point and be strong in building as much as you can in the 2 years that you have to build it. But again, I had mentioned this earlier, if you miss a deadline, and then you go ahead and catch up later with your next pivotal point, what's going to happen is that everything speeds up for you. Your life is going to move at warped speed. Not in a bad way necessarily, but definitely very, very quickly. How do past lives affect it? Basically, anything that you didn't finish is going to be spillover, but we don't, thank God, okay, have all the spillover at once. As you're designing your life contract, you are essentially looking at what you want to finish, what new goals you have or lessons you need to complete. And you're looking at the past lives where there's unfinished business that would fit in accordance with that. So say you have 8 past lives where there's unfinished business. You may only use 1 or 2 of those. Sometimes people are using 3. You schedule it accordingly. So as a past life starts to come up in your life contract, or you're reaching that point where you need to resolve something, you would start having flashbacks to it. You would have very strange dreams about it. You may not even recognize yourself in the dream as being yourself. You might think you're watching something, but you're actually watching you. You would also start meeting people in your waking hours that are associated, reincarnated, from that past life. So there would be a lot of triggers, and it would become sort of obvious that you're going through a little bit of a change. If you're wanting to look at your life contract, is it possible that light work could come up if it is what you're here to do? Absolutely, it's going to show up. So what are your options if you want to find out what your life contract is? Again, I'm the only person that I know who does this. So you could book a life contract reading with me, but what I'm doing is proven by the planets. I don't know how I know it, I just know it. And what you would want to do is to get, if you don't want to get a life contract reading with me, you would get your astrology done, your birth chart. And if you were to do both, it would be always interesting to compare the two. That's what me and my astrologer friend do. Essentially, you know, if you do it with astrology, they're looking far more in depth than what I'm looking at. When I do a life contract, and it depends on how much time you book it for, but if you want the general 30-minute, I'm really focused more on your work. If you want something longer, we might be getting into past life influence. We might be getting into certain relationships. There are all these little markers in between that help me to understand more about how you are going to handle a pivotal point or what else is going to be there. All kinds of other factors get involved. So it depends on how much time you want to spend on it. We have a life contract party coming up. Yeah. Everybody at the party is getting a life contract reading. It's absolutely essential, I just think, to have some sense of direction. And even if you think you know, to have that confirmation that it's literally written, it's what you wrote, is huge. Sometimes we put ourselves kind of in a higher superior position than what we actually are in. If we were to say that maybe your children signed on to you to accomplish A, B, and C, and because you're not finishing what you're supposed to do, they are going to have a much more difficult time accomplishing that, or they're going to have to find other routes by which to accomplish and get that support for that. That's what's going to happen. They're not cut off and lost, but they are going to be rerouted. So does it affect them? Yes. But does it strip them of the opportunity? No, it strips you of being allowed to continuously disengage them or detach from it. You would eventually sort of lose that option. People nowadays have children and they give up their entire lives for the children. They forget that the child signed on for bigger purposes than just to become the sole center of the parent's life. So it's like we want to bring the children on board, but not forget to steer the ship. We don't let the children start steering that ship. Okay, so kids often sign on to parents nowadays, and the parents become so obsessed with parenting as a verb, parenting as a lifestyle, parenting as a sort of helicoptering obsession, that they completely actually abandon what the children signed on to, which means that they lost themselves. They became a parent instead of continuing on with their own development. And this is a huge error. We would sometimes see siblings, but it's not always that the family that we're born with is all that significant. Sometimes it is huge. It depends on the level of contract that you have with each individual. So sometimes we have a lot of past life influence or karmic influence. We have what astrologers would call North Node influence, which means we have work to do together. You may have soulmate contracts, work contracts. And if it is that significant, then it would show up. Otherwise, they could just be there. It really depends on the nature of the contract between you and that particular person. It's not a given that they're significant just because they're a sibling. We toy around in many dimensions. So time is an illusion. When do we have the time? Time is an illusion. There's nothing but time. Nothing. There is no restriction. We travel all the time. Right now, I'm here with you doing this, and in my head, energetically, I'm somewhere else. When I go to sleep tonight, I'm going to be in multiple places at the same time. There are alternates going on. And someone dies, and they are communicating directly from the other side. And they're saying, I'm over here, I'm watching over you, I'm waiting for you to come, whatever it is. It's very possible that they're there, but they have not stopped doing other work while they're there. They continue. That's the only way to get into the light. They continue to learn, to grow, to do other things. It's almost like they're multitasking. They don't just sit up there and watch you. They don't just need to be there to support you. And they will at some point choose their time when they're ready to come back and do this again. So it's not uncommon either to see that someone has reincarnated, but is still energetically watching over you. So it's sort of the time part. I think that's the biggest illusion in that question, if I heard it right. This is why I'm always telling people, yes, I'm channeling your loved ones. Yes, they love you and they're here to support you, but they're not just sitting there watching over you. The ones that are actually with you all the time, those are your guides. We're mistaking who's communicating with us. It's not all that common when people say, oh, my grandmother's with me all the time. My grandmother's with me all the time, all the time. No, she's not. She's got a life. It's not what we think. And neither are you. In the same way that you would not be spending all of your time and attention watching over someone. It's sometimes there and you're sometimes with them, but you can also be at work at the office and thinking on them and sending them positive energy. And when you go to sleep at night, yes, you're technically asleep, but you're sending them more and you're dreaming where they are. And so you guys are sharing time together in real time in another dimension. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. It's just a big illusion. So if you guys find this interesting, okay, I would highly encourage you, even if you don't find it interesting, but you feel like you have no sense of direction on your life, you're not sure exactly what is going on or what should be coming up next, I would recommend booking a life contract reading with me, and it would always be super fascinating if you get it confirmed in the astrology. Christina Del Rey, our astrologer here at the Academy, and to sort of sync everything up for yourself. Just make life easier. It's not supposed to be this hard. Why does it get so hard? Because we're not on path, because we're not living within our life contract. And if we were all living even a little bit within our life contract, we would have so much more harmony in the world. It's not just about within. It's also in community with others. We all just need to really stay in our lane and do what we're here to do.